his ceremonies, a blend of religious observance and military pageantry, to lift his spirits. After the inspection, he proceeded through the 1,054-room Baroque palace, a quarter-mile-long monument to the immense and outrageously concentrated wealth of the nation. The route through the vast, richly adorned chambers was crowded with people hoping for a glance or a nod from the Tsar. Imperial guards in white gala uniforms, with gold and silver helmets crested with the double-headed Russian eagle, Cossacks in long blue robes holding drawn sabres, senators in bright scarlet coats, diplomats and dignitaries in their finest regalia, admirals and generals nearly toppling over with medals, and ladies of the court in flowing dresses of pale green and pink. Nicholas escorted his mother, the Dowager Empress, by the arm. His uncle, Grand Duke Alexis, accompanied Tsarina Alexandra, followed by the rest of the royal family. The empresses and grand duchesses wore velvet robes and glittered with diamonds, pearls, and other precious stones. Led by the imperial court's grand marshal, who walked backward and carried a golden staff, they marched from hall to hall, accompanied by the national hymn. Finally, they passed through the 1812 military gallery, a long corridor with 332 portraits of Russian officers who fought against Napoleon, and into the palace cathedral. Icons of the patron saints of the imperial family lined the gilded chamber, and the brilliant morning sun shined through the circular windows of the cupola. In a robe laden with gold and silver, the Metropolitan of St. Petersburg, the head of the city's Russian Orthodox Church, began the Mass at noon. Nicholas bowed his head and prayed. A heavy incense of cloves and rose oil saturated the air. Surrounded by so many symbols of his power and the people invested in its continuance, Nicholas might have believed his prayer to God of January 1st, that in the coming year he will give Russia a victorious end of the war, a firm peace, and quiet life without disturbances, would soon be answered favorably. After all, the previous year God had finally blessed him with a son, Alexis. But centuries of history had shown that the people of Russia, not God, had fulfilled most of the Tsar's wishes. The city of St. Petersburg, for instance, raised to give Peter the Great his foolhardy paradise, came at the cost of the lives of tens of thousands of serfs who drowned or died of cholera while digging the foundations of its first buildings in low marshland prone to serious floods. In his private life, Nicholas liked to play the part of a common Russian, dressing in a peasant blouse, eating borscht, and taking up modest rooms within his grand palaces. But he understood little of peasant lives. Another St. Petersburg existed beyond the towering gold cupolas, elegant mansions, and richly maintained government and military buildings that lined the Neva's granite quays. In this St. Petersburg, as in other Russian cities, workers trudged through dirty snow to labor at factories, where 14-hour days yielded only meager wages. Their bosses treated them as no better than slaves, and the workers lived in windowless bunkhouses up to 11 to a room, with wooden benches for beds, rags for pillows, and walls covered with soot from kerosene lamps. They wanted better pay and living conditions, and they had recently grown willing to strike for them. Across the breadth of the Russian Empire, 1/6 of the world's landmass at that time, stretching from the Gulf of Finland, east across Siberia to the warm Pacific waters, from the